Welcome, Hudson Valley, to this week's edition of In Touch, the award-winning public affairs and issues program that runs across Townsquare Media, the Hudson Valley radio stations. This week's guest is Liz Carlson, artistic director at New York Stage and Film. We talk about their 2023 season, their latest partnership with Marist College, and the recent climate surrounding stage and film during the ongoing writers and actors strike. We invite you to listen to a previously recorded conversation between Liz and myself here on In Touch. I'm proud to announce that In Touch has won the 2023 New York State Broadcasters Association Award for Outstanding Public Affairs Program or Series, as part of the 57th Annual Excellence in Broadcasting Awards. This recognition would not be possible without the incredible team here at Townsquare, all of our phenomenal guests that we learn from and grow with every single week, and of course you, the listener. Whether you've been listening for a while or you just found us, thank you for taking part in the conversation and staying in touch with what's going on in the Hudson Valley. Hello, Hudson Valley. You're listening to another episode of In Touch, Townsquare Media, the Hudson Valley's public affairs and issues program. And we got a great episode for you guys today. I'm really excited about this one. I've talked about this before on this program, how I have a background in the arts, working on stage, working on film. And this one has both. With us today, we have Liz Carlson, artistic director with New York Stage and Film. Liz, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm really excited to have you in here. This is like near and dear to my heart. Episodes like this just make me feel all light and giddy. It's like, oh my God, this is great. And I love highlighting all the wonderful talent that's going on in around the Hudson Valley and New York as a whole. And it's beautiful to get into all that. And one thing that we do here on this show, before we get into the meat and bones of everything, could you just give us a little overview on what New York Stage and Film is, please?
Absolutely. New York Stage and Film is a really incredible organization that has been developing new stories for stage and screen for almost 40 years, if you can believe it. 38 years ago, our founders realized that artists needed a space where they could leave the centers of their lives, their homes, their jobs, the noise of the city and everything else that comes along with that, be in a really protected environment and community with a lot of other artists and develop plays, musicals, screenplays, TV pilots. And what we specialize in is giving artists a community where they feel like they can really take chances, where they can ask questions, they can push themselves. There's no wrong answer. And they're going to come out on the other side of it having learned, I think, more than they ever possibly could have imagined. These stories that we fall in love with, whether they're on Broadway, off Broadway, on our TV screens, now on our phones, and on these devices that are accessible to us, they take years to come to fruition. And so we are a part of that very long and beautiful trajectory where we say, come to us, think deeply, dream big, ask your colleagues, share, learn, push forward, and then they keep moving on. And ultimately, these pieces will be seen in so many different iterations. And the impact we've had on the culture of American storytelling for over 40 years is really incredible. There's a lot of work that you know and love that you probably didn't realize started with New York Stage and Film.
All right, I'm curious now. Are there any productions off the top of your head that you might be able to name that we might be surprised?
Absolutely. The one that we all know is Hamilton, which was with us in 2013. Terrific. It was only one act at that time, and we had an early company of artists who were with Lynn and Tommy and Alex and that incredible creative team, and they shared, that first act and said, we don't know what the second half is going to be yet.
Oh,
and
wow.
People still share the story of the time they were in the room when they heard those songs for the first time. And this was exactly 10 years ago, because that was in 2013. We've also supported Hadestown in a small way in our New York City programming, American Idiot, Bright Star, John Patrick Shanley's Doubt, which actually just announced it's coming back to Broadway.
Did they?
There were many years. Yep. Liev Schreiber is going to be in that, and Tyne Daly. And so that piece, in our earliest phase of being a company, developed with us. And so many, many beloved stories had their time in Poughkeepsie.
That's terrific. Now, I'm familiar with all of those. I don't know if anybody else here on listening is familiar with all of those, but the theater nerd I am is like, that's riveting.
Absolutely.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's funny. I actually had a professor who saw Hamilton in the very early days too. Maybe through you guys, I don't know.
Who knows?
But said is like, oh yeah, this is cute. I bet this will do decent, and then it blew up and everything. But that's awesome to hear that it has such an incredible legacy. So there's a lot of great things that going on this season, the 2023 season. I know we caught you guys kind of in the middle towards the later end of it, but really want to talk about the awesome things that you guys have highlighted already, plus the really cool things that you got coming up for the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. We're halfway through the season. It's been a really robust and beautiful 2 weeks so far. Last weekend, we kicked off our season with a concert by Broadway composer Joe Iconis. We had a play reading by the screenwriter and playwright Jason Kim, who you might know for writing the book for K-pop, which was on Broadway this past season. Yep. Just this weekend, we had a musical workshop of A Wrinkle in Time. It's an adaptation of this novel that we all grew up with and loved. And we had a great reading by a playwright named Emily Kazmarek, who also works in the field of plays and TV, as many writers do these days. And the 2 weeks coming up are also equally as exciting. We have 2 play readings by Sopan Deb, who is a culture writer for the New York Times. This is his first play, and so he's going to go through this process for the first time in his career, and this is the first time he'll be hearing this play out loud, which is always a beautiful experience for us to have. And then Beth Henley, who is a playwright who has developed work with us for almost the entire 40 years of our existence. This will be her 13th workshop with us. She has a play going up. Both of those will be on the 29th of July. And then in our last weekend, we have taken on a new line of programming that's supporting dance-driven musical theater. So we've been supporting plays and musicals and screenplays for years and years and years and years. And now we have a whole new line of resources specifically for musical theater, where the choreographer is one of the main authors and where dance is a main form of storytelling. And so we have this huge piece called Paradise Ballroom by Princess Lockaroo and Harold O'Neill that's being directed by Colette Roberts. And that is going to be a coming-of-age story, a found family story that's set in the 1970s queer culture in Los Angeles that focuses on a form of dance called whacking, which we're all familiar with voguing. Yeah. Whacking is the West Coast equivalent of it. And Princess is this incredible international figure who's been bringing this dance around the world to form community. So her mission of forming community around dance is very similar to our mission of forming community around process. So she's going to develop with us and have workshop presentations on August 4th, 5th, and 6th. And then Lawrence Fishburne, the actor who we all know and love, is developing a one-man show that he has written and will be performing in. And that's also going to perform August 5th and 6th on the Marist College campus, where you can find all of our programming now. And then Lawrence's show is going to go on and be in the Perlman Arts Center inaugural season in New York City next spring.
Oh, that's exciting.
This is just another testament to the huge network that is making live story.
No, this is incredible. With Lawrence Fishburne and what he's putting on, when it comes to one-man shows, is it something about his life and his stories, or is this something completely different and fictional? How's that working?
Yeah, this story he describes as the lies he has heard from others and told himself over his existence. It's a really interesting character study of people he's met throughout his career, both in terms of his professional associations, his personal life. And so, as we all do through story, we examine humanity. He's doing that from this very particular lens of his experience being who he is. And it's a really interesting journey that we go on and learning all of these different characters that he embodies.
Wow.
And then, shares with us.
Oh, that's so cool. All of that sounds amazing. First of all, one-man shows always get to me because it's always so impactful and so poignant, everything that one person can do. I've been lucky to see a couple one-man shows, and I always thought they were amazing. What you can do, just one person in a stage. But then also some of the other things that you're saying, all the different workshops and how everything is just being built up and the legacy of everything. And speaking of legacy, that one person that you said that you've had with you 13
Beth
times
Henley,
now,
yeah.
Beth Henley, that's amazing to be able to have that kind of growth. Just as much as New York Stage and Film has been able to grow, Beth Henley's been able to grow as well, and you guys have been able to do that together. That's insane to be able to say that you guys all grew together in that way and to see things flourish.
It's really beautiful. It's an organization that's supported literally thousands of artists and individuals. And it's not just the people you see on the stage, but we employ a seasonal staff of anywhere between 35 and 60 early career professionals. So we've helped build careers in technical theater and administrative theater. I think pretty much everywhere you go, it's like a 6 degrees of separation, but like 6 degrees to New York Stage and Film.
Yeah.
And what we strive to be is a place where you can, walk out of your school program, be just in the earliest phase of your career and have a place with us. You can have multiple awards of any variety and you can have a place with us. You can be somewhere in the middle of your career and have a place for us. I like to joke and say that Poughkeepsie is the great equalizer because frankly, you walk through our doors and we do not care who you are. And I say that with respect because as an artist, and especially if you get along in your career and you have name recognition, it's harder to be vulnerable because there are expectations on you. Early in your career, it's harder to be vulnerable because you believe like you have to be perfect immediately and everywhere in between on that spectrum. So when you come to us, we want you to be able to be brave and be in that really authentic place of process and then share with an audience who's coming in to say, I want to see unfinished work. This is exciting to me. And it is because an audience who sees something with us is literally the only time that version will ever be seen.
Yeah.
It will never be the same because they will have rewritten that day. They'll rewrite tomorrow. And you are the only group of people who sees that version of the show. And it's something that's really beautiful. And that also happens to the participants in our filmmakers workshop who, have, early version screenplays and TV pilots who are paired with these professional mentors who help them develop their work as well. And so regardless of the medium, the artists need to have a space that says only focus on the work itself. Don't worry about the end product yet.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That is really terrific. I think that's beautiful. And I'm glad that you mentioned about all the different careers and connections. And we'll get into that in a sec. Again, you're listening to In Touch, Townsquare Media, the Hudson Valley's Public Affairs and Issues program. Today, we're speaking with Liz Carlson, Artistic Director with New York Stage and Film. They are having a terrific season after a long legacy of working in the Poughkeepsie area, of doing such great stage and film work. And one thing that I'm just going to pick on now that you said about just being able to build so many careers on and off stage. How do people get involved on and off stage, behind the camera, in front of the camera? How do people participate in the workshops versus just being a bystander to it all? How do people get involved in that way?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that people can get involved with stage and film. As an audience member, you can come see our work. NewYorkStageandFilm.org. You can get tickets to all of our public-facing presentations. We intentionally have an accessible ticket price. We also have some programming that's pay what you wish because we acknowledge that sometimes ticket prices are prohibitive and we want people to come through the door, regardless of where they are in their life. For individuals who are interested in working with us, we hire a seasonal staff of anywhere between 35 and 60 people, depending on how big the programming is. And those opportunities open up somewhere between December and January of every calendar year. So if you are an early career professional or you know someone who might want to work with us, have them pay attention to our website and to all of the, theater job listing sites somewhere at that point in the year. And artists, the artistic network is vast. And frankly, we are at every show. We are a very approachable team. And if anyone has any questions about what it means for their work to be heard, to be read, they can approach us and ask us when they see us there. We make a curtain speech every night. They know our faces, and they can, come talk to us. We want to be a permeable community.
Oh, that's terrific. No, I think that's great. And I think there's probably so many people who are listening, so many people who are going to refer this episode as like, hey, I know you're working on this project. You should consider it for this. And I think this is a great workshop and a great place to be able to experiment and try these things. As you were saying, I think that kind of vulnerability you're talking about, and also just the mutual respect. And it's like everybody's on the same plane when they come in here. Everybody's making things happen. And I think that's terrific. And I think that kind of leads into one of the next things I really want to talk about. And this kind of gets philosophical in a way, this kind of big general deal and everything. But why offer this in the Hudson Valley? In the Hudson Valley of all places. I'm going to sound like a cynic for a second. It's like, why here? Hudson Valley? It's not like we're New York City or anything. That's where things are happening. Why would you ever come here?
Yeah, very intentionally, because it's not New York City or Los Angeles or Chicago or another urban center, because as often happens when you're in those spaces, you have your apartment, you have your job, you have your friends or your relationships, you have the literal and figurative noise of the industry, which is okay. It's great noise. It's really exciting noise. But there's a certain time, I think, when you're making work where you need to mute all of that.
Yeah.
And the Hudson Valley is and especially Poughkeepsie, and especially because of, the Metro North and Amtrak lines that literally let you off in the middle of Poughkeepsie.
Yep.
It's accessible for our artistic community. And so, a lot of people are coming from New York, 90-minute, 100-minute train ride up, depending on which train you're on. And then you're right there. So it's not too far away. And it's just far enough. And also the Hudson Valley is a really rich community of such amazing artistic brains. You have so many actors who live up here. You have so many other colleague artistic organizations. You have the Poughkeepsie Arts Council. You have a great Chamber of Commerce in Dutchess County. You have this rich tapestry of people who want to participate, want to see, want to support, want to be a part of that business community, that really there's no downside to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. And now that we're on the Marist College campus, we're right on the Hudson River. And so there's just something about breathing that green air, frankly.
Yes.
We have a joke amongst the staff where it's called Poughkeepsie time when you're up here.
Okay.
Where the days are expansive and you never realize just how much you could accomplish in one day. And then the weeks go by in 2 seconds. And that's what we call Poughkeepsie time. You end up doing so much and it's over in the blink of an eye. And you're like, wait a minute, can I go back?
Wow. That's really cool. Somebody I've grown up here in Poughkeepsie, so that's a really interesting perspective of looking at it. And when it comes to Marist, I live right up the road from Marist. I go down there for runs, walks. I'll chill on the boardwalk over there. It's gorgeous. And I got to say, the views just there on the river, it's unlike anything else. I always say the clouds are more beautiful here than any other place that I've seen. And it really is a testament to the area. And I'm glad that you brought up Marist. You guys have been doing fantastic work in the Poughkeepsie area for a while now, and you have this new collaboration going on with Marist College. So can you please tell us what the people can expect out of this new collaboration?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been, partnering with Marist in a way over the past 2 years, and now we announced in January that we're going to have a committed collaboration with them for at least the next 3 years, both in Poughkeepsie and New York City, because they also have some beautiful New York City-based space. And in this moment where we need to be showing up for the artistic community in a very specific way, developmental resources for stories in process throughout New York City, throughout the country, sadly have been reducing, have been going away. The cost of COVID, both in terms of infrastructure, the actual financial cost, human capital, has really shaken up our community. And unfortunately, we've seen a lot of colleague organizations go away. Yeah. And so we really feel this need to be as present, as healthy, as strong as possible in Poughkeepsie in the summertime and in New York City throughout the rest of the year. So Marist is able to offer us some really wonderful space and infrastructure around all of that. We have shared education initiatives, and so we're talking about how we can bring our professional resources to their students who are learning the trade, how their students can come and work with us, how we can use the student resources that they have. We actually have, I think, 5 Marist students and alumni on staff this year alone. They have their theater spaces that we can use. They have an incredible music department. And so that's really an additive for we do a lot of support for musical theater. They have practice rooms, they have instruments, they have their symphonic hall. And what they also have is an administration and a staff that is hungry to build with us. And so that really seeps into the artist experience. And so we're grateful for their support. It takes a lot of people and a lot of resources to support all of this type of work. And so anybody who's willing to do it is, we're really grateful for that.
Absolutely. I think that's so important right now. And just having the right people to build and support with and to grow with, and having that collaboration is only going to make things better in the long run. And having people that understand, that's a huge thing too. And something that you brought up about the human capital and just the resources these days, a couple points that I really want to bring up based off what you said. As a musician myself, it's been very tough post-pandemic to try to get the gigs that I used to. And I have a group chat with a number of other musicians in the area, and we were all saying to each other, it's like, hey, is it harder to get gigs this year for you guys? It's like, okay, thank God it's not me. And we're all saying that, and it's a completely different landscape. It's either the connections that we had, people moved on, some of the venues don't have the money anymore, some of the venues aren't around anymore.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes into saying that with so many different places, whether it is, a musical, a play, working on a production or something like that. And then also something that's very prevalent of what's been going on recently, the writer's strike, and then the actors thinking of going on strike as well. And here we are in an environment these days where, people have turned to entertainment for all these crucial human altruistic needs, yet at the same time, the people who are creating it are being looked down on and fighting just to get a fair wage.
Yeah.
So here you are, New York Stage and Film, being able to put on these things, build these collaborations and everything. I think it is a shining star in everything that's going on. I would really like to hear your take on just the sense of where the arts are going right now.
Yeah, it has definitely been, for all of us on this planet, it's been a challenging couple of years, and each industry, we'll call it, has felt that in a different way. For the arts, I completely agree with you. What we saw is that we turned to stories that we love, new stories, music, coming together to speak. I mean, it is instinctual in us to try to understand humanity better, this existence that we're in, and tell stories to one another, whether that's seeing the blockbuster film, seeing the indie film, seeing something in a walk-up in downtown New York City, seeing the big Broadway hit, gossiping. We're just storytellers. It's what we do. I have faith that we will always do that and continue to do that. What we're experiencing right now, frankly, is a crisis in the business model.
Yes.
It costs more. For many good and understandable reasons. We are experiencing inflation also, and people, we're thinking a lot about like the nonprofit model, and people's giving has changed, whether they've reprioritized how they give their money or they're giving less. And so all of those things are coming together and shaking up the path we thought we knew.
Yeah.
I suspect we're going to be in a learning phase for many more years. And I think, unfortunately, more infrastructure will crumble because we're already seeing staffs getting cut, seasons being canceled, entire organizations shutting down. It's hard to know how to get out of that exactly. It's a roadmap none of us have ever seen before.
Yeah.
I think we need to remain in really transparent communication about it. We as leaders need to keep naming the priorities that we need to hold on to, and that is honoring our artists, honoring access to the work, honoring equity and inclusion and justice throughout all of this. And for those who feel passionate about art being present, and anybody who has capacity from a little tiny bit to a lot, frankly, now's the time to show that support to all of us. That's not just an appeal for stage and film. It is for anything anyone feels passionate about. Your radio station, there's a lot of amazing film in the Hudson Valley.
Absolutely.
Support those organizations, support student groups, support young, now's the time to invest in the art because it needs to be here. And it is scary and challenging. I trust we'll find a way forward. And I hope we all remain open to learning what it is along the way. Because if we don't adapt, we'll die. That is, we've learned that and seen that throughout history over and over again. If we become rigid and say we can only do it the way we used to do it, it will completely shatter.
Yeah.
And so the greatest thing we can do right now as artists, as art leaders, as supporters of the arts is be open-minded and say, okay, how do we grow together? How do we grow to be better and stronger and make sure the stories we love to hear can still be here and that we can support the people who are making it?
Amen. Well, I've said this on the show many a time. It's hard to grow alone. It absolutely is.
You're right.
And I think that's one of the beautiful things about what New York Stage and Film is doing is you guys are just focused on the growth.
Yes.
And that's one of the most beautiful things about it. And I really appreciate your personal insight and perspective on, the overall environment that we have in the arts community today. And I think it's something that the average person should be aware of, because it is a struggle that a lot of artists are going through right now. And if somebody loves something and is passionate about something that someone else is putting out, this is the time to really be there and to support and to help and realize that you're there for them and not just whatever company is flushing stuff out and trying to make $1 million off of it. So,
exactly.
Again, you're listening to In Touch, Townsquare Media, the Hudson Valley's Public Affairs and Issues program. We are speaking with Liz Carlson, Artistic Director with New York Stage and Film. I think this has been a terrific discussion, not just about the arts that's going on here in Poughkeepsie and the Hudson Valley as a whole, but I think just a really good conversation about arts and the way that we look at it as just a community, as a people. And I really appreciate everything that you've had to say about things today. As we close on up, I know we talked about it a little bit, but how can people find New York Stage and Film? How can people get involved with what's going on for the rest of the season?
Absolutely. We have 2 more weeks of our season. We have a lot of amazing programming that's happening in those 2 weeks. You can find the schedule, access to tickets on NewYorkStageandFilm.org. You can join our mailing list. We'll keep you updated throughout the year. We're really active on all of our social media channels as well. And so, you find us on all the avenues, and we'll get you the information you need.
Terrific. Now, I know I've taken you on a lot of different ways in this episode, but do you have one last nugget for our In Touch listeners that you might want them to know about the season or arts in general? Anything you'd like to share before we close things up completely?
I think the thing to know about the New York Stage and Film season, we have a certain amount of programming that's public facing, and our audiences will see, a couple dozen bodies on those stage. But what everyone needs to know is that behind those, handfuls of humans are also an exponential number of humans that are behind it. Because as you were saying before, it takes a community to do this work. And it's not just the staff, the administration, the other artists who are supporting them, but it's, our summer season will have, I think, over 225 people contributing to it, whether that's artists developing stories in a very early phase, incubation phase, screenplays that are just going to have table reads and meet with mentors, all of the humans who've been working tirelessly for months, our board of directors, all of the supporters who contribute to make the season happen. And really, what's different about Stage and Film is you come into our space and I think you feel that there's a vibe in the air. Maybe because we're not product focused, maybe because we're not asking for final polish, maybe because we're saying to everybody in the room, audience included, we're going to go on a journey here that we don't entirely know, how we're going to end up. And there's something about that rawness and newness that I think as humans we need and we really appreciate in this moment in time. And so I think what I'm getting at is if you choose to show up, we're going to be there to welcome you with open arms and say, come on in and join the party. And so I hope to see all of you there.
Oh, wow. That's so beautiful. Liz, thank you so much for everything today. And I'm so excited for everything that New York Stage and Film has going on.
Thank you for having me. It's been great to chat with you.
No problem. This has been this week's edition of In Touch, the award-winning public affairs and issues program that runs across Townsquare Media, the Hudson Valley radio stations. We want to give a big thank you to Liz Carlson. For more information on New York Stage and Film, please visit NewYorkStageandFilm.org. Of course, all links and information can be found in the description of this episode. As always, I've been your host, Connor Walsh. Until next time, stay curious, keep an open mind, and as always, I'm glad we get to spend some time